Yeah, I'm naturally Patriots fan because the high school that I went to, uh, Julian Edelman was there my first year. So,
Ooh, wow.
hey, Kate.
Oh.
Oh, there we go. Hey, everybody.
Hey, Kate.
Hello,
How you guys doing today?
Doing pretty good. No bad ones yet.
Oh, good. What's her name? Sailor Mom. She said she was kind of foggy this morning and kind of just foggy and a little light focal, I guess. So we might not see her. We might, and then we might not.
Might not. Yeah, I felt like that. It's been a weird week for me.
What's been up?
This morning, just like walking back and forth, and then forgot what I wanted and came back. Like I went to go get something to eat and water just a few minutes ago, and I opened the garbage can, looked in the garbage can, and I wondered, I was like, why am I here? And then I came back. Then I went to get water again, and I had to keep remembering, go get water before I get there and forgot what I went there for. Yeah, so that was my morning.
Yeah,
I was just gonna go from questions from listeners, and we can have some people answer these two questions.
You broke up there.
Oh, it's me.
Okay, I can see you.
All right. I'm sorry about that, you guys.
No problem.
I turned my hotspot off on my phone and turned it off and let the phone connect to my home Wi-Fi. So that froze for a second. I was wondering what is going on.
Yeah. I gotta get a Wi-Fi extender.
I'm sorry, all I heard was I gotta get a Wi-Fi.
I gotta get a Wi-Fi extender.
What's that like? It's like make it further around your house?
Yeah.
I got a lot of devices here.
There's some.
I got 3 TVs, PlayStation, a laptop, a tablet, 3 phones. Yeah, there's a lot connected in this house.
Yeah, there's some dead zones in this house, so.
I know dead zones.
All right, I'm gonna start from the top, you guys. It says, this may be a stupid question, but I'm curious about your experiences. I only found this forum a few days ago. Before that, I never heard of anyone else's epilepsy stories or known anyone who has it except for one friend who died at seizures some years ago. I've barely researched epilepsy in my entire life. I've just turned a blind eye to it and haven't wanted to know to remind myself more than I needed. I think I have all kinds of epilepsy except the absent and reflex lighting. For the most of years, I've always gotten my memory back a few days later, but now 2 last years, the memory never comes back. I just know that I've had them because I've always wake up bloody. My whole mouth is broken. I've fallen, hit my head, and usually sprain my shoulder. I must have had hundreds, if not many more. Now my question is, I know everyone is different, but how many seizures is unusual to have? Can you count yours? Can you remember yours? Unless I'm alone, I don't remember them, but for the most part, I remember my seizures. Hi, Reese.
Hi.
Hi,
I mean, because
Reese.
mine are usually like 1 or 2, and they're close. And if someone's near, then they can count them. But if I'm alone, I can't tell you. I don't think I've had many alone. Maybe 1 or 2, but they were on camera. So
Yeah.
had ones kind of alone, more of I was alone and then I woke up in bed and told, yeah, you had a seizure while we were away. We found you at the bottom of the stairs.
Ooh.
At
What's
least
your
it wasn't
worst?
in the creek.
What's your worst injury so far?
I would, the most hated injury, how about that,
Yes.
is tongue stitches.
Oh God. I've had really bad tongue injuries. They might have done stitches. I guess they do stitches that are
Dissolvable.
not yeah, they do the the liquid stitches now, right? Not like
I don't,
The ones that dissolve?
I know they
yeah,
dissolve.
exactly.
It's the same type that they use for like your gums.
Yeah,
Because I've also cracked and have had to have two teeth pulled. Yeah, you're my tooth buddy.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I got a
So
crack one.
Yep,
I
right there.
Sip
definitely have
Yeah,
one.
two
I'd have to
problems.
show you all the way back.
Oh yeah.
I
That-
posted mine on the Reddit, but yeah.
yeah,
yeah.
Tooth buddies.
tooth buddies.
Oh yeah. So what'd you guys think of what I said? Did anybody remember their last seizures? How many is irregular?
I mean, getting to that question, I guess again, like it sounds so repetitive, but it really is just personal. If you can
Yeah.
count your seizures, like if you go from a point of not even knowing how many in the hundreds you've had over the year, then just break it down. Go day to day. Try to keep track of one at a time, and that's the only way you're going to see any progress being made, or even know if you're making progress.
It,
Yeah.
it's hard for me to track mine because I have both epileptic seizures and seizures, PNES. Um, I, I I can't remember what it. Psychoneurological epileptic, non-epileptic seizures, something like that. So I, and they show differently too. My epileptic ones, my mom has told me I am much stiffer. I'm usually, that's usually when I get all the tongue bites. And the PNES ones, or the functional seizures, are the ones where I'm usually getting the concussions because I'm flopping.
I've had one over the. In this country, I think I've had three. I'm sorry, three concussions over the last 20 years. I wouldn't say I haven't had any bad ones, but three concussions that were exactly pointed out that they
Yeah,
actually kept me at the hospital for.
I think I only have two that I was actually sent to the hospital for.
I've been I have epilepsy since I was about 14, and anybody with epilepsy can tell you memory goes bad. So
Memory?
I yeah, the
What is
memory
that word?
memory
Yeah.
and I even have nocturnal ones, and
That was
if
scary.
those there's no one around me to tell me I had a seizure overnight. It's only like a guess in the morning, or Even some of the ones in the daytime, if no one's around me, it's like a guess. Like, did I have a seizure? Unless, like, I know that certain one, like after a grand mal, where the water's just like all off,
Yeah.
it's really hard to count. Like
Yeah,
I know
Yeah,
I had
I
one taking a test. I think a EEG or an MRI once.
yeah,
How
I
did
work
they
from
handle that?
home, so I'm really stressed about how to tell, I this is all kind of new for me still, so I'm trying to figure out what to do to, if not tell, at least to make sure nothing too too bad happens, while I'm home alone. I my or at least keep my wife from being terrified, she's a stress, so I'm I'm constantly trying to figure out how to keep her from being stressed out all the time.
understandable.
Um,
Yeah, I understand that, Reese.
and like, she's constantly getting stressed out because she doesn't want me to have, you know, the the grand mal and hit my head and not be able to get up. But as a result, if she texts me and I don't immediately respond, then she just flips out. And it's like, I don't want to feel like I don't have any space, I don't want to feel like she's my mom. And so I don't know how to work things out so that there's some kind of middle ground where she can feel some kind of comfort, but I also have some kind of independence.
Do you have family with you, like near you, that you can be with, that you can assure her? Um, my wife, this is when I was living with my wife. We originally bought this, like, it's non-recordable camera that she can use for, like, the app on her phone to move around. It was originally meant for the dogs. Um, and because they were tearing things up, so she wanted to, like she could even say stuff through the camera.
That's funny.
And when um it just became like bad again, it was just like, all right, you can stay in this area and I can see you. And especially after we had our daughter, um like I couldn't get no records of it, but she could watch me from her job. Uh, and she only worked like a 15-minute drive away if anything serious happened.
Yeah.
Um, but it, like, she can just watch me from her phone. if anything. Like she can check her phone and see if everything's okay. And maybe that might be a solution to go with like a in-home camera that can,
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
it can
makes
watch
sense.
you so she can check instead of worrying. That would, I mean, I've never been in a relationship. Well, I've been in a relationship, but I can't give you relationship advice with this one because I haven't been through seizures and someone to, I would say, treat me like you're being treated in a relationship. So I can't give that advice.
Yeah.
But I could say if you get a camera, I got one over here on over my shoulder, and it looks at my whole bedroom. That's the only way I've seen 2 seizures so far. But my mom can check on me every now and then. She can say something. Yeah, small
Yeah,
little camera. I mean, I got them all around her house, her front door and back door because she's far out away from me. So I make sure I see who's coming in the front, watching her dog out back. I got one in her living room.
yeah.
Make sure she's
That's,
okay too because she has diabetes, so sometimes she gets sick and she's just laying there all day. I can't tell if something's wrong, but now I can tell if something's wrong. You've been laying there for 8 hours, and yeah,
yeah, that's a
Yeah, Reese,
good idea.
again, like this might sound a little repetitive, but it does get better over time. Again,
yes.
take it with a grain of salt coming from me because I'm getting divorced. But maybe when you do have that talk with her of trying to maintain some independence, reassure her that like you do appreciate all the concern. You know, you don't want her to be worried. So this is kind of that middle ground where you have the pet cam and you can check in on me live stream. Obviously, like maybe she'll feel better if you start telling her every little thing. You know, I think when today or just say like, give her ideas of like I'll check all the faucets, you know, see if I can kind of tell where I was before I got like lost, you know, and then check like see if you left the refrigerator open, see if you put like the bananas in the oven or something like things like that. If you
Mhm.
reassure her that you are being proactive about keeping track and making progress, and above all reassuring her that you just love her for loving you, and okay, nobody's around. Yeah, shit, hold on, let me shut the door. Okay. What I had to do was to like I don't know if you would call this a breaking point, but like my husband's biggest concern was that like I couldn't go down on him because if I had a seizure, you know, like God forbid. So I don't know, like that would come
I
into
actually do
all
have
of it.
the
That's
story
my
for
beef.
that if you really, really, really want it.
Go ahead. My story happened twice. That's all I can say.
Well, I was going down on a man and I had a seizure. This is when I was about 18, 19. And well, he had he, he wasn't circumcised. And afterwards he didn't have the actual cap. Yeah. Katie's trying not to laugh.
I'm
No,
trying not to laugh too.
I'm picturing this, and I mean, if that man could comprehend, like, there's got to be a lot of circumstance surrounding this. Like, was he even aware that you had
Oh
seizures?
yeah, he was aware. He couldn't get me
Okay,
off of
okay.
him.
So that's yeah. So that's a big part of this. Was not necessarily a total surprise, but definitely like an unwelcome ER visit.
Yes. And that's how my relationship with Joe ended.
See, but that's what I'm saying. If that's like the most important part when we're discussing like all of these things about how to monitor progress and just manage this condition and be able to raise a family together.
And
Like,
find the right person to do it with because not anyone
exactly, dude.
should
Why are
stand
you still
that
bringing that up?
and
Is that
come
really
back
like the
to the
only thing you're
person who
looking
did
forward
it.
to? Seriously, is
Yeah.
that the only
So
thing you're looking forward to, motherfucker? I still do yoga. Yeah, I can do other shit. Come on.
yeah, I was in his shoes, and I was the one on my back, and I was told you know, when you have a seizure, once you start, it just, you know. And she was like, I thought nothing of it. She was like, you didn't do any shaking. I thought nothing of it. And she was like, for 5 seconds after it happened, she was like, I wasn't sure what was going on, but, you know, kept going because it just
Oh my.
happens, you know. I was like, oh, okay. And she was like, when I looked up at you, that's when I knew something was going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Mine
I
was a
mean,
little better than
I
yours
would
was.
guess from your perspective,
Your
that was
friend had a little better than yeah.
I didn't get bit, so.
No.
there you go. Definitely two sides to every story, but those are the
Well, it's
memorable ones for
personal
sure.
things like that that affect us too.
What's that?
It's personal things like that affect us too.
Like your mental health.
Yeah, because it affects your want to even do oral. Because what the hell am I going to do next time?
Now you're wondering what that person thinks.
Yeah, sorry. What if I'm going down on a girl and it happens?
But for me, it's like 20/20 hindsight. If somebody knows about me, knows this condition, is willing to take this risk, you just got to love me for who I am. I'm done trying to
Right.
play the part and, you know, literally.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you going to do? It's not like you can hold your breath for 10 seconds and say, okay, I'm still here. Yeah, I'm clear. Nothing's going to happen then. Like, they don't have a way of detecting this stuff. Even with this stupid machine in my brain, I was so psyched when somebody posted their data showing, I think this happened yesterday or the day before, and it was RNS data, and it showed like the year and over time how the bar graph just got lower and lower, showing less and less seizure activity. I blew up the phone with NeuroPace and RNS trying to get a hold of somebody. Finally, they got a techie to call me back today and say that data is just for the doctors. It's really not for the patients. So I called the doctor.
Why can't it be for the patient?
Doctor
That's so
called me back,
cool.
and her lovely medical assistant explained to me that I was just too stupid to understand it. It's too complicated. She put it nice. She put it nice. Wasn't about to get in into nothing. So I just kind of have a nice weekend and got off the phone. But I
It's in
definitely
your
take
body. They
offense to that.
should help you understand it.
That's what I'm saying. I want to be able to keep track of that kind of thing myself. Obviously, once every 3 or 6 months going into the office is just not enough to see the progress, see how they're changing the settings. I don't have any record of how they've changed the settings. If they make the zaps on both sides stronger, if they make them come sooner, if they make them last longer, and I feel like I have a right to that information too. So frustration and trust in the medical system, I think, is pretty much what I'm going to have to come to terms with this year. Finding a better doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's this country. I don't know. I told my wife I was gonna ask you guys. I don't know what's happening with CVS right now. I keep having problems with the way they're dealing with my insurance. They keep just losing my insurance information for some reason. So we went in to pick up my pills and they said it cost $1,000 something. And we were like, what the hell? Like last time we picked up this medication, it was $30 something. What are you talking about? And so we said we weren't gonna pay that, obviously. And we came home and we looked at the information online, and yeah, it turns out they just didn't have my insurance information again, which they did that last time too. And so we're just like, what's going on? And I'm starting to get really stressed about what's gonna happen with Trump and everything, like if we need to start getting worried about what's gonna happen. I don't
Like you couples just don't need any more stress. Expect the unexpected is kind of a thing with epilepsy that I've come to terms with, especially when, a new husband wasn't going to be any support or help when it comes to issues like that. So, I mean, I don't want to call it like learn from your mistakes because obviously you didn't make a mistake. But CVS and Walgreens and Centerwell are all going to keep making mistakes. So,
Yeah.
looking for alternatives, just always keeping a hard copy of that active insurance. If it's Medicaid and they want to keep switching you, or those Medicare Advantage plans sometimes keep wanting to switch you on their own. I think it's junk mail sometimes, but it's not. They've done that to me before.
I have, uh, I have a fear. I'm trying to, sorry. Yeah, I stutter. When I get, I'm trying to get on Medicaid, because I'm also going through divorce, and, I'm just worried that I won't be able to, I'm not going to be able to get it, and, good news, bad news is next Tuesday is the day that I can file for divorce. Um, Bad news is, well, I need my, that's the day that he can drop me from the insurance. And then cost of medications. I'm, and as much as I love Duke and the Duke Well program, they can't help with the pharmacy part.
Yeah, I have medical insurance. It's pretty good, so I wouldn't know how anyone else's is. But California, for me, it's working pretty well. I mean, my hospital bills and pills have been free for a while now.
Yeah, mine too. My
Yeah,
Medicare.
like since I was a child and I had medical insurance, and then it just carried over. Like I've never had to pay for a hospital bill, but I've seen them, and yeah,
They're pretty
they
pricey.
are nice. I couldn't imagine paying that alone at
When I
19
turned
or when I first started seeing them. I didn't even have a job then. Yeah.
when I turned 18, I was like dropped right away from my mom's insurance, and I like this is the pre Medicare, Medicaid, like you gotta have it days. And I tried going to like welfare and all that stuff, and like I didn't have a job, and it's like nope, 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 pre-existing condition everywhere I went.
Yeah, and that's probably what a lot of people are worried about now too. They're talking about like to get back on TANF and like any of those federal welfare programs, you're gonna have to be working unless you're proven absolutely disabled. And that alone, takes years. So I can see why a lot of people in this country are probably worried about what the administration might spring on us. But as usual,
Yeah.
it just feels like we have to prepare for the worst. Stockpile the meds if you can. See if, a generic or maybe a less expensive prescription will work. And just get the right doctor, somebody who you genuinely feel like cares.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll be back later. I
All
just
right.
signed up my son's home.
All right.
All right, have a
Okay.
good one.
See you later.
Thank you. I like this. Oh,
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see you soon.
Come back Tuesdays and Fridays.
I will try.
All right. Yeah, I don't think Anne heard the question when she got here. It says, how many seizures is unusual? Can you count yours and can you remember?
I'm in hiding, but I'll come out of hiding for a moment. I can't count them. It's easier for me to count how many times I've been comatose. And I already forgot the rest of the question. Yeah, it's one of those days. Do I remember them? Some of them, yes, which is why PTSD is huge and I didn't realize. Yeah, I didn't until I sought out treatment. I'm like, there's something wrong. You know, something happened 5 years ago that really rattled me. You know, definitely PTSD. But, you know, and that really helped. That treatment really helps. It's something, you know, I have to do it every day. Yeah, you can actually do it online. It's called cognitive behavioral therapy, and it really shifts your thinking. However, when I can't think, I know something's wrong. And, you know, my biggest problem right now is I'm tired of arguing with the providers that, you know, came into my case 5 years ago when they decided that, oh, no, you don't have epilepsy. You have psychogenic. And I'm like, no, it's been determined I do have epilepsy. And what they're calling psychogenic is what a previous doctor called interictal psychosis. Because I'll have clusters that can go on for hours and hours. And in between those little focal seizures, you know, I don't know if you guys ever experienced that, where you'll start to have a panic attack. And, you know, it's like if I feel another one coming on and I'm in an emergency room, I know now I'm not going to get help. And they're going to give me the wrong medication. So I don't go. And, you know, this is a huge issue. I have an appointment with this, where I'm going to call him the new neurologist, the 5th one in 5 years. And he's at the epilepsy center that I left 3 years ago because of that psychogenic diagnosis. And we've got some new arguments for him this time because, yeah. But as far as all of my seizures, I've had, sorry, just moving around. When they diagnosed me and they did the 72-hour, during that diagnosis, I had 217 seizures and in 72 hours. And then we found out in 2019 that my focal epilepsy is what they call multifocal. And in a 72-hour ambulatory, I had over 100 seizures, but none of them got together to create a cluster. But the doctor saw then that I have little focal sparks popping up in different spots in my brain all the time. So the medication that he put me on, I can't get anymore. And that was after I fought for a year. In 2020, I finally got it back. And going back to that epilepsy center, they said, no, you're taking this for pain. We're not going to refill it. And they canceled my refills. So I ended up calling a couple of my other doctors and all of that nonsense. And, you know, but my biggest fear with my seizures is the damage that it does, because it's the ones that I'm not feeling that are doing damage. And I can be a very vicious advocate. So I kept telling these doctors, please don't make me do this. And they didn't know what I meant. And now they do, because I called my activist friends all over the country, including Washington, D.C. I'm like, what do I do? So the first thing that they're doing is they're investigating their status with what's called the NAEC, the National Association of Epilepsy Centers. They are no longer, as of today, a level 4 epilepsy center.
I need you.
Because they are not taking care of
Right on.
one patient with one of the most dangerous invisible epilepsies. So kudos for activism. You want to push me around, fuck around and find out.
I
I'm
need
not
you
going
on my team. Like,
yeah,
Absolutely.
you're very
it's like,
outspoken. I need that.
and then the other thing, and this happened to a previous neurology center that I went to near Buffalo. And I had asked at that time, because we'd finally gotten medical marijuana legalized, I'm like, could you help me get my MMJ card? And the PA, who was brand new, I was literally her first and last patient there. She said, honey, if you want to get high, you're going to have to go to the street. I'm like, honey, you don't know who you just spoke to. And I had no idea who was coming in for a conference that day. And I walked out of the building, grabbed my cigarettes. I'm pissed as hell, lit up a cigarette, and here comes Josh Stanley. And he is the founder and creator of Charlotte's Web. So with Realm of Caring, Charlotte's Web, and Sativa Enterprises, they offered sponsorships for cannabis clinics. And Dent Neurological lost $20 million with the sponsorship that day. Well, yesterday, URMC Strong Epilepsy Center lost theirs. So they just lost $20 million in sponsorship and their certification as a level 4 epilepsy center because they pissed off one patient too many times.
You just
This is
became my
my
biggest inspiration.
Right.
oh, thank you. I appreciate
How
that.
you get things done. That's exactly how you get things done.
Right,
I
and
need you
I
on my
kind of
team. Like, argue with these doctors for me.
I won't even argue with them anymore. I take what they said, put it in front of them. Now you explain that to me in a way that, and I had a doctor tell me, you do not have the cognitive ability nor the experience to understand your condition. And I'm like, dude, neither do you. And I found out not too long after that my former neurologist was his professor. And he slapped him with another 20 hours of CE, continuing ed for that year. So I'm like, go ahead, slap me again. You know, I do not, and I was going to be in the healthcare profession, so I do not tolerate gaslighting or lack of accountability or the deity complex or any of that. You either talk to me as a patient, don't talk at me with your eyes closed, because you won't notice I walked out of that room. And just carry on. But finding a good doctor here where I am, I've gone through pretty much, I have 2 left. There's 2 left for me to try. And all I'm going to say is I'll stay with the one that I have if he can agree to work with me, because now they've suffered quite a loss. And, you know, I don't know if they are aware of who caused it, because they don't want to accept the accountability. But I'm sure, you know, it's like, you want to blame me, but it was the way you treated me, not what I did. It was the way you treated me. So, you know, and then they're still trying to tell me, oh, you know, the seizures you're having are psychogenic. They're not epileptic seizures, because on this 124-hour EEG, you didn't have any epileptic seizures. But then a week later, well, one EEG doesn't determine your condition. Same doctor. So I took a screenshot of the notes and sent it right back to him. Now you tell me which side of the coin. What are you? I'm not sure what side of the mouth I should listen to here. You know, you have to be.
The psychogenic thing just because you're aware during your focal seizures?
There was a lot that went in behind that. When I got here to Rochester, I was literally, I moved from Buffalo to one of the southernmost tips of Maryland, because my sister didn't want me to be alone. She had to call an ambulance a couple of times when we were on the phone, stuff like that. And she's like, well, I don't want you to be alone. You know, we have Johns Hopkins, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, so let me connect with my people and see what we can do at Johns Hopkins. So I said, okay, I agreed to move down there. And 9 months later, I had a seizure January 3rd. And January 11th, she had the sheriff come with an order of protection to remove me from the house. So when I got here, I had been homeless. She tried to have me committed to a psych rehab. When that didn't work, she ended up with that $20,000 bill. And then I was homeless for a month in Baltimore. And I don't know if you guys could.
Not in Baltimore.
Yeah, in Baltimore. So between Johns Hopkins, MedStar East, and the Bloods, I survived. But because of all that stress, I was having these seizures constantly. But I still had access to my doctor at Johns Hopkins in Bethesda. So he kept me from going too far gone. You know, he was the one that said you have more than one foci. So saying you have focal epilepsy, yes, you do, but you have about 20 foci. And there's one of them sparking at one time or another. So I have constant focal seizures. And because they're in different parts of my brain, they don't always look the same. And yes, part of the problem was because of those focal, going to like a complex focal or complex aware, I could say, okay, I'm seizing. And they're like, no, you're not. No, you're not. And then I wake up when they're pulling the tubes out because they had to intubate me. So, you know, it's like, okay, you know, this is where I call stop. You know, and there's a huge difference between being pissed off and really angry. If I want to get something done, I have to get really angry. And oh, I'm angry now. So this is in 48 hours. I pretty much pancaked the epilepsy center.
Oh yeah.
So if the doctors don't want to talk to me, I will say, here's your letters. I got one from NAEC. I got one from Johns Hopkins. They're inviting me back. You know, stuff like that. It's like, I just have to find a way to do these things if I want to do them. But what, you know, these doctors here are saying, well, you know, you're at the end of your journey. Oh.
So during Trump's first term, I didn't know what to do. I was just kind of like, what the fuck? So I went back to school and I got my graduate degree in public policy. And that's kind of when I was like, that's how I'm gonna figure out how to get back, get back into things. And I started having seizures basically when I graduated. So I kind of didn't get to do anything with the degree because things just started going haywire.
Right.
And
that sucks.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Imagine.
now I'm a mess and I don't know what I'm gonna do. I hope that someday I'll have some kind of ability to go and do something with the degree. And now I have a lot of anger about how things in this country are with disability, and that's what I want to focus on.
Right.
But
Oh
I don't
yeah.
know what to do, Like I'm looking at how jobs are and everything is ridiculous and expects you to have so much experience for a beginner's job, and it's like I don't even know where I would start if I could start, like I don't know. And yeah, I'm just
Well, for right now, I mean, be patient, go easy on yourself, Reese. I get it. I was working on my nursing degree, and yeah, I never got to do that, but I still got to use it. I didn't get to. I got my LPN. That's all I ever had was, other than certified nursing assistant or medical assistant. I did have my practical nursing. Um, and I was working in hospitals while I was going to school. So, but I started having seizures, and I had one in a very bad place during a clinical. But to be quite honest, I would have quit. I mean, I would have worked probably 20 years and quit because I would not survive in this system right now without either getting arrested or beat up, at least, because the corruption that I'm coming across just in my case personally is so egregious and so disgusting that the state doesn't even want to handle it, but they have to. But they're like, well, currently, we have the changes in this, the change. I don't care. I don't care. Either you help me or I'll do it on my own. And it won't be as neat and tidy as if you do it. Because I will get loud and not yelling and screaming, but I will name names.
And you won't
And
sugarcoat the bottom line, and that's what they're all about: is sweeping it under the rug or making it sound like something else, somebody else's problem.
right.
yeah.
And then, and it's like, okay, so the next step is, and I have to wait 3 weeks, almost a month, is after I see this doctor just to see how he is and reacts. If he isn't interested in starting where I left off 5 years ago, before I moved here, then I have to report him to what they call corporate compliance, because before I file a lawsuit, I will give them an opportunity for a no contest settlement. But the corporate compliance for healthcare and hospitals, they're the ones that try to prevent loss. So if they got a patient that suffered injuries because of negligence, they got somebody they want to keep quiet. So they can sugarcoat me with lots of money and I'll be quiet. But I will never stop advocating for people that suffer medical gaslighting. It's like they literally said, "Oh no, you don't have epilepsy. We have to diagnose that here." And I'm like, I was diagnosed 15 years ago. And here we are. They just took away the medication that they just gave back to me 3 years ago. And I got a phone call. Why didn't you refill the medication? I can't. They canceled the refills. So the pharmacy called the doctor and they can't get it. I'm like, so then why is the nurse calling and asking me why I am no longer taking this drug when they were the ones that canceled the refill? And all I could say was, don't play with me today. It's not a good day. And I had to hang up.
Sounds like you've been blacklisted.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right.
I've been red flagged. And that's something that the state has to find. But whatever it is,
Still total respect for knowing what you're doing. Like Reese says, I
yes,
mean, where do I start? It's kind of the feeling when somebody starts their career in the medical field. I went the medical billing route, got the degree. Only experience was like collecting bills for a while, but
right.
it was a starting point. It was a starting point. I got a job in 3 clinics after that. They, politely suggested I go to another location anytime I had a seizure within sight of patients. And
Right.
it's, you know, I thought it to be fair at the time because I was just so embarrassed and ashamed that I didn't know what my condition was. That, you know, looking back, again, 2020 hindsight, if I actually wanted to maintain a career, then it would have took more experience than anything. Now it's going to have to be a work from home job
that
Mhm.
will pay, whatever I can get not to lose a disability, and basically not having anything to do with a live call or live customer service. And
Right.
that's where we're at now.
Yeah. And that was my last job. I worked for the New York State Thruway, and with their toll, and when they were switching over to the electronic toll. And it was just one of those fateful days. I went in, I just wasn't feeling right. Thought it was just one of those, I've had surgery on one of my knees. Oh, it's just arthritis, whatever. And I went to get up on my office chair, which was bar stool height, and I'm 4'10". Okay. So I got to do a little jump. Well, it didn't happen. That little jump was enough to, I don't know, shatter something. And I was on the floor and went right into status epilepticus. And that was after 40 years of trying to get a diagnosis. So I couldn't go back. And New York State determined me permanently disabled, but I can't get disability. I've applied 4 times. Oh, you're not disabled. This stuff going on with Trump. Don't worry about it. I don't know if you know what happened to him today and yesterday. He's not happy, but Congress will not let him touch Medicaid, Medicare for people with disabilities, especially incurable conditions such as epilepsy. So
Exactly.
we don't have to worry. We really don't. But, things like my mental health therapy, physical therapy, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen either. But the first term with him, I almost had a breakdown. This time I'm just like, I'm 64 years old. I've watched this long enough, and he's just about got himself in the shitter right now, admitting that he does not know if the president needs to follow the Constitution. I'm not going to go all political, but he definitely hung himself. And, Elon dropped his cousins off and disappeared. So there's a lot of problems. But he's not going to, they cannot, Congress will not allow it. So that I'm confident in. The Supreme Court and Congress, he lost his cronies. There was a majority vote against his big, beautiful bill. So that means that his people had to vote against him, and they did. His people in Congress. So they said, no, this is unconstitutional, and we've had enough. They all took an oath, and they're finally, it's like, oh no, this is not what I'm here for, kind of thing. So he lost that vote, and there's other things. So he's just lashing out at everybody from Bruce Springsteen to Taylor Swift. Okay, so I all I'm gonna say is I can't promise it, but Congress won't let him touch us. And he
Well, if
already
there's
did it.
anybody's reassurance that I ever trusted more, it's you.
Right.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Do you
you.
have any
This
open
is coming.
lawsuits against anybody?
It's, malpractice lawsuits are a waste of money and time. The first thing you have to do is pay a lawyer what's called a retainer. And it can be anywhere from $5,000 to $50,000, 50, depending on the case. Mine was going to be 20. I reached out to my friends, my advocates, my activists, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. So we call her the house lawyer. I signed everything over and let her look at my entire case. And she was the one that said we'd be better off opening up the conversation and offering them a no contest settlement. Because otherwise, yes, we can get the retainer for you, but we will also get the attorney we want you to use. And this hospital system will not survive. Neither will their university. Because that's next is the University of Rochester, and their medical departments are going to be reviewed, because they're the one teaching these kids how to treat patients like this. And that's all going to be under review. But, I get most of this and I appreciate it. I'm humbled. But most of my advice comes from people who know. that, we've supported patients through things like this. And, I'm not going to lie, I can end up in that dark pit and say, it's not worth it. I don't have the energy. Nothing's going to change. I don't want to go through all this. And then something, it's like, oh no, I'm not going to let this happen anymore, because this could happen to one of you guys. This could happen to somebody else. And, it's just, I'm grateful I have advocates. I'm grateful I have people who know things like this and can say, dude, because I didn't know what to do. I'm like, I've been putting up with this for 5 years, and it's like the first thing you do is you take their statements, and if they don't add up, make them do the math. So that's coming. And then, and that's just for one doctor. I have this other spine specialist. She is a newly graduated physician's assistant. And they're all saying, oh, we don't see anything wrong. We don't see an explanation for your pain. When I literally shifted the entire fusion in my neck over, everything stayed together, but part of my neck moved over. And it's still attached. But all the vertebrae, the discs, all that, crunched. Nothing's fractured. There is some compression on the spinal cord, but we don't see any explanation for your pain. Any compression on the spinal cord will do that. So this one, it's like, okay, since I'm talking to New York State, let's just take care of it, But as far as the epilepsy, this whole gaslighting and the trend towards, I don't know if you guys have noticed, the trend towards the PNES diagnosis, the psychogenic. They're telling people, oh, it's psychogenic, and this isn't anything serious, and then they put them on Keppra. Well, why are you putting somebody who's psychogenic on Keppra and not on an antipsychotic? I don't get it. But when they give me an antipsychotic, I stop breathing, and then they can't give me the benzos. So apparently this diagnosis that they put on me.
The worst thing to do, put them on Capra, in my experience, you're going to make them more psychotic.
So I have a psychiatrist, just to be honest. So my psychiatrist has actually told me that several of my anti-seizure medications also have I guess antipsychotic is kind of a dramatic term because I'm not psychotic, but
no,
they
that's a
have,
real thing.
but they have effects that are relevant to his to what I
to psychogenic, yeah.
Yeah,
like a mood stabilizing,
yeah. So I suppose it's possible that being on Keppra is relevant regardless of whether you're epileptic or not.
Yeah, I mean, if Keppra were one of those, yeah, I would definitely agree. Keppra is the farthest from a mood stabilizing drug. But yeah, lamotrigine, lacosamide, even Tegretol, and there's a lot of the medications, and I don't want to get into it and sound like the Debbie Downer, but literally everything about me has been an argument with the providers here, including the reason I take Vimpat. And I spent an hour with my therapist Wednesday, and I'm like, I finally get it. I'm fighting with these providers just because they want to fight. So I'm going to bring them a fight. I'm fighting for my life. So I'm going to show them what that's like when they're fighting for their license, because this has gone on too far. So they've told me that I'm taking Vimpat, which is lacosamide, for schizophrenia. I've never been diagnosed with schizophrenia. When that didn't work, it was bipolar. Never been diagnosed. That didn't work. It was borderline personality disorder. That didn't work. And my psychiatrist called their director. So these are the fights I'm done fighting. And I'm not giving up on myself in any way. I consistently take my cannabis. I use both CBD and THC. And I don't need the pre-gambling. So I'm not going to let them do that to me again. This is the third time in 5 years that they've given it to me, taken it away, changed the dose, taken it away. I went through a withdrawal and ended up having a seizure. And it's like my daughter had no idea what was going on. And she's like, oh my God, Mom, why did you do that every time you stop taking this drug? Call the doctor. Here, you go and try to refill this for me because I didn't do this voluntarily. But now I'm never going to take it again because I feel like they hold me hostage with these drugs. You know, it's like, oh, here, you want some candy, little girl? We're going to take it away. So, you know, and by now, like they said at Johns Hopkins, after 3 medications, you should have been offered at least, you know, something other than just pharmaceuticals. And that never happened. And I come here and they won't even do the IC electrodes. But they're telling me I'm at the end of my journey. There aren't a ton of options. So my psychiatrist let them know how that contributes to one of the side effects that our drugs cause. You know, and it's like, just so you know, I know 2 women who will be calling them if I die. So, you know, it's like I'm not saying that I would do that, but who knows? You know, I've had things happen where I forgot I took my meds and I just kept taking them. You know, it's like I didn't know what I was doing. And when they told me, oh, you overdosed, I don't know how I did that. You know, it's like I don't know. I put my pills out in daily, you know, but you know, when my providers have become the problem, I have to do something. And there aren't a lot of options. Rochester is, I call it a cow town on steroids. They barely fit a description for a city to me. They're a town. I'm from Buffalo. The only city bigger in New York is the Big Apple. So yeah, no. I have a dozen options for doctors. That's not a city. That's not a level 4 epilepsy center. So, you know, it's like, yeah, no, but yeah, I do have a lot of people supporting me.
I'm sorry to hear that. I can't imagine living somewhere other than Boston with this. I can't imagine what other people are dealing with. I truly can't.
Yeah, I'm seriously considering leaving this network here because it's just not working. But in all reality, it's probably better that I stay and say, look, this didn't work. Let's fix it. You know, show me what you can do. But yeah, I don't know all of the dynamics of what's going to happen next because you can lose certification over not meeting certain criteria. And that was the first thing that happened. You know, I told them they couldn't do an EEG that my doctor requested. Well, what kind of EEG was it? It was a 3-day ambulatory, and all they would give me was a 24-hour. Bing, bang, red flag. What is your condition? What was your last? I was supposed to have the IC electrodes. They said they couldn't do that. Bing, bang, another red flag. You can't be a level 4 without those things. So, yeah, and they don't have a single epileptologist. There isn't a single F6 neurologist there. They're all neurologists.
And God only knows
Yeah.
how many other patients got referred there. We've been indoctrinated to understand just follow doctor's orders for so long that you
and how many
expect
aren't?
where they refer you is actually going to have the resources, and they don't.
Right. And, you know, and for
But they don't
me,
let that slip.
they don't. And what they don't like, and I've had this happen a couple of times, is when I look them in the eye and say, I trusted you with my life, and you did this. I trusted you with my brain, and you did this. You know, and if they want to keep pushing the psychogenic, non-epileptic seizures, there's only one way to prove or disprove that, and that's with the intracranial electrodes. So that's what they're getting. When I see them next month, it's like they were told never to bring that up. The doctor said, we'll never have this psychogenic conversation again. Unfortunately, his nurses did. So no reason to communicate with them anymore till I see the doctor. All I need him for is the Vimpat, because they're not doing anything for me anyway. You know what I mean? And, and then it's going to be the, oh, by the way, you said there were no options. And I wasn't told that 5 years ago. So if I could get back to Baltimore, that would be ideal. But I have nowhere to stay. I need, yeah, we could probably find foster, but that's too scary. That is too, for me to move away from my family to go and have brain surgery. Yeah.
It's so frustrating the way things are so separated in the medical industry. Like, I got a CT scan a few days ago, and they called me with the results, and they just told me the very specific results and didn't mention I've been having a lot of pain in my lower abdomen, and I went to the ER like a month ago, I think, and they found like a bunch of gallstones. And so they took images of my lower abdomen because my doctor wanted to make sure there wasn't anything else. And so they called me with the results of this CT scan, and they told me all the results, and then they didn't even mention the gallstones because they weren't in these images. And it's just like the fact that I have to keep this all.
It's like we have to be our own doctor. I had that same thing with my gallbladder. Oh, we weren't looking for that. But it says requires clinical consult. When I read the impression, it's called the impression, what they write about what they see on the MRI. And it says requires, not suggests, requires clinical consult. And not even my primary care provider told me about it. So he's working.
I have to keep track of everything, and I have to call everyone, and it's just like I have to do everything.
That's the job of your primary care provider. Yeah. I don't get it anymore. But I really feel, and I don't mean this in any devaluing way. I'm actually taking it as kind of the foundation on the medical gaslighting thing. We are a very vulnerable population. And I can tell you, after having epilepsy for almost a half century, they like to play with us. And after the last 5 years, I'm I see what's happening. You want to try this and try that? No, I see what's happening here. That treatment worked for me. Let's get back to that. And no, we've got something. No, I am not a guinea pig. I will take the medication that worked. And that's all I want. But, it's like I really feel that we're more vulnerable than, especially women with epilepsy, because women were definitely more subjected to being dismissed, especially in regards to, when we say I'm in pain or I'm not feeling well, or it's menopause. Yeah, it was menopause till we get into date, or until we, crack our skull open. And then, oh, why did you go and do that? Well, I didn't do it on purpose. stuff like that. It's like we all kind of need somebody to stand up for us. And Pookie, I appreciate this so much because, I'm actually in my head thinking you might be doing this more than 2 days a week, or you're going to have to limit it to an hour. So there's going to be like 100 little, stamps of pictures on my screen soon. More and more people. And I'm talking to Realm of Caring, and I'm like, you guys, you got to jump in. And they lost a lot of funding with this little Trumpy dump thing, which, it's temporary. That's how we're looking at it. It was temporary with his first term. We just, yeah. So we're expecting that those fundings, because all of the NIH, the DEI, all of those things, educational funding, that affected Realm of Caring and teaching hospitals and such. So, but I was talking to the founder about our little get together here, and she might eventually pop in. So, I can't say it's going to be today, but it's like, I got to get her in here. And, just as adults, having people to talk to. And it would be nice because we started a group with parents of children with epilepsy. And that's how Realm of Caring started. So, there's a lot of people out there that feel the same way we do, and we need each other for support. But I'm so grateful for you. I really am.
Yeah, reassurance is the number one feeling that number one word that comes to mind whenever this group is brought into, or I get these little notifications and things, because it's just too convenient how doctors have a term for everything. Like you said, I want to take that medication that did work, and they say, well, no, you have drug resistant epilepsy, so you can't do that now, even though it's been
but they won't offer surgery, right?
It's been 3 years since I got that, since I had that Carbatrol. He is almost done with mommy's milk, so I'm not stressing about that. But,
right.
Again, I throw that out there just to see if I can get a plan together, because I feel no more out of control than when I don't know what's going to happen in 3 months. And
right.
they wouldn't even let me finish the sentence. Just looking down at the paper saying that, oh, nope, I see drug resistant. So let's cross that off the list and, wait until they invented new one. 10 years down the line, I'll figure out that could be like, doing like hell to my organs or something. They don't find out
my liver.
the worst side effects until later.
Did they change your meds for like pregnancy?
That was something that I think the dosage was the first thing that changed. I don't remember if I was on the extended release or if it might have been the Keppra, but the thing was they wanted to continue treatment in the form of adding medications, and too many of them were too new. 10 years, less than 10 years out, they don't do studies on how much is found in the breast milk, how much is, I guess, exposed to the fetus. And that's the kind of thing they will never be able to answer, because that's not part of like FDA's requirements for passing a drug. So it literally just says on so many of these medications, ask your doctor. And I thought I could trust my doctor because she was a mother, and, obviously must have other patients who are, bearing children, but it's back in the rat race at this point.
Trust no one.
They just
especially these medical professionals.
Care about women, honestly, like testing things. Like they haven't. It's been how long, and they still haven't made any changes to the things that they use to do tests of. I'm having so much trouble with words lately. I am so glad that I am getting October Max. But they haven't made any changes to the things to do tests of.
You talking about like diagnosis?
Yeah, I'm
Like
trying to
how
think
to
of something
achieve a
so I don't have to
diagnosis.
say vaginas, but that's all I can think of. But
No big deal. I totally broke the MA barrier in like the first 2 minutes on this call.
but those things for those tests, I can't remember what that word is,
Pap
but
smear or something.
pap smears, yes,
There you
they haven't changed those tests in how many years?
Yeah.
They just don't, they don't care. They don't care about women at all.
That's what gets me so curious about how these doctors are being taught. What is the curriculum? I mean, I understand medical professionals. Yeah, it's a lot about data, evidence, follow that route. But listen to your patients, see them as people, especially
Mhm.
epileptics, where the condition is individual for each patient. I just take all this, especially after hearing Rochester Ann. I like.
Yeah.
Sorry if
And
you
no,
don't
that's
mind that. I
fine.
hope you don't mind that
I don't
nickname.
mind. I don't
Okay.
mind. You can even call it Rottenchester, okay? Because
Okay.
it's the city, it's not my identity. But
Yeah.
I agree. And the two best doctors that I had said exactly what you just said, Katie. My best education came from my patients. And one of them is the highest awarded epileptologist in our country.
There
And
you
I've got
go.
doctors here in Rochester saying he's a fool.
No.
And it's like, okay, let me, and I did that to one of these guys. He's like, oh, well, he doesn't know what he's doing. I'm like, do you know who you're talking about? I just want to double check. I just want to make sure we're talking about the same doctor. So sitting right there in the exam room, I'm like, hi, Trixie. Hi, it's Anne. How you doing? I'm still here in Rochester. Could you just send me that packet again of the EEG, that all of this research they did? And oh, by the way, tell Dr. Klein he's an idiot, according to this guy here. And he's like, wait, Dr. Who? I'm like, you didn't look at any of my previous medical records. You just admitted it. And you just told the best epileptologist who won't even come and teach at this school that he's an asshole. So if I'm lying, then they are. And that's where my therapist pulled that out on Wednesday. She said, what you got to start telling these doctors is that if you're lying, then so are the doctors before that. And those
The ones who
doctors
wrote the
before,
textbooks.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yep. So it's like, I didn't even know where I was in Baltimore. I didn't know anything about this doctor until after, and it's like, walk into his office and the walls are covered with warts. So yeah, he's a good guy. But now it's like, okay, I'm going to tell these doctors here that you're telling those doctors, and I want to see you do it on the phone. You're going to
So
tell me
maybe
I'm
we need
lying.
to start all being more prepared when we go to the doctors to be ready to essentially put them in their place if it seems like we just get the vibe that they're going on to the next step, up the dose, new meds, same cycle.
Right.
Maybe
It's
we
all,
need
and
to
for
be more
me,
prepared about
oh
when,
yeah,
Yeah.
the diagnosis happened, exactly what tests confirm that, what lobe, when it went from focal to generalized, and how many foci there
mhm.
are. And
I feel
yeah,
Yeah,
like
if they
I
can't
have
answer
two
those,
kinds of doctors, and they're like either extremes. I have doctors that I love, and I feel like they're so good and kind and they care. And I have doctors that are just garbage and they don't listen to me or care at all.
right,
And
Yeah.
they're there for the numbers. I have another patient. It's like, good, you don't have this one anymore.
I
Now I
need to
just gave
take
you more.
Rochester Ann with me to my appointment. You said we
Oh,
gotta have some
I don't know,
points.
because man,
Gotta go there
I
with
give.
points to talk about. I need her to talk for me. Just go in there and I sit back like, yeah, she's right.
No, I
Yep.
can't say that I'm right. I can't say that I'm right. But the biggest mistake they ever made was they told me to call my lawyer,
there you
And
and
if
go.
you
she's going
forget,
to
I'm
this
gonna be
appointment.
like,
Yeah,
and then I'll let you keep going.
and it's like I'm just gonna sit back and let you check all these. Just check the boxes off, And I'm one of those. I don't know if you guys get the tablet or the check where they ask you, it's called the QR9, those 9 questions to see if you're depressed. You know, how often have you felt sad or hopeless? I won't even do it. And I'll hand it back. This is for my therapist and my psychiatrist. I am here for neurology. Unless you want to talk to my therapist and psychiatrist, I am not answering those questions. And that's how I am now. It's like, no, you don't need those. What are you going to do with it? You know, the worst thing that ever happened to me was in 2021 when I showed up for an appointment that I was pissed. Okay, I wasn't angry. I was pissed. And I was ready to fight. So I have to admit, and it was one of those times, and I'm like, dude, I'm not wasting my time on you anymore. And I walked out, but it's like, I'm just not wasting my time. They think we are wasting their time, and they don't think about what it takes for us to get to those appointments, especially if we don't drive.
Yeah.
So no quarter. Okay, no quarter. But yeah, I've taken people who, oh, who's this? Oh, my name is Cassie LeGowan. Oh, and who are you? I'm a friend of Ann's. Oh, she's a paralegal for a lawyer that's been in my corner for 25 years. So, it's like I can bring as many friends to my appointments as I want, right? But, sometimes that's what we got to do. It's like, you want to ask me questions that are not related to the epilepsy and then try to convince me that the epilepsy is really psychogenic, even though you have clinical proof of your own. Because that's
such a slap
Mhm.
in the face.
Yeah, and I'm just going to slap you back. I have to.
Like a EEG.
Well, yeah, like an EEG. I won't do another stealth electrode EEG. I will not.
Okay.
And they already know that. It's like, I will not. I have over 200 of them under my belt.
Oh,
I
come
do
on.
not have. Oh yeah, I will not. I've lost count of how many times I've been in the EMU.
Wow.
And I was told in Baltimore, you graduated the scalp EEGs 10 years ago. You need intracranial electrodes because your seizures aren't being picked up. But the pattern is, we know they're there. So coming here, and they're like, oh, no, that's not true. Oh, okay, well, here's who said it. And again, they do not look at my prior medical history, even though they'll say it's the most important thing. No. And don't ask me to remember something I was unconscious for either. So that's the other thing. It's like, I don't know what happened. I was home alone. I don't know.
That's the question I hate. Like, what happened? Like, I'm unconscious during everything. I don't know. That's why he's here or they're there because they're the one that seen it.
Yeah, nobody was there. Oh, then you didn't have a seizure. Well, I just got 6 stitches in the side of my tongue. How did I do that? Sneezing?
Yeah,
Did I do that
they don't take
sneezing?
the obvious as this would happen. They want to test and make sure that's what happened instead of taking
But they
the word
did.
these days.
Yeah, they
How
did
did I end up
test.
in the ER?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it cracks me up though. It's like they have the evidence, and yet they're saying it's something else, which leads to the question of agenda. Who are they doing this for? It's not me. So, those, yeah, riveting questions that I have to, yeah. It's like, so who are we here for? If all they're going to do is say psychogenic, and their EEG showed what they called both, but then later determined that the psychogenic stuff was my gallbladder. I mean, you know how painful that can be, right? So, it's like, okay, they ruled it out. But I had seizures and they're saying, well, no, you didn't. Okay, let me get those records, and I just keep throwing them their records. And I'm like, it's one thing when it was in Buffalo or Baltimore, but when the test was done here in Rochester, and they're like, oh no, that never happened. That's when I draw the line. And it's like, I don't know what you're not doing, but I'm not letting you do it anymore. So it's, it's almost summer here. It's a lot warmer in our area now. But I don't want to move back to Buffalo because we're talking inches of snow in the winter versus several feet of snow. But to go back to my doctors that took care of me, I'm really thinking about it.
Yeah, the weather in Buffalo I do not appreciate because that's where my sister lives, and I would love to see my niece and soon nephew, but
Oh, congrats.
my I do not have the ability to walk well enough yet, and she is not willing to make the trip out here. So that's a bummer.
That's a bummer. Yeah, I know. And it's like, okay, you don't want to do that. Okay. It really sucks. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I have family like that too. The sister that treats her trash better than she treated me that day, still talks to my daughters. And my daughter had said something, oh, Auntie, she misses you. And I'm like, tell her I rotted on the curb that she threw me on. That's it. Just,
It's like
So you
she's
severed ties
very
after she had you committed?
well, yeah, first she made me homeless, then she tried to have me committed.
Yeah.
And then to top it off, she contacted, and she's done it again recently, which is how I know my daughter talked to her. So I had to have a very specific restraining order against a person I actually live with, who's my oldest daughter. But
I'm so sorry.
my sister, yeah, it's a piece of paper that's followed by knuckles if it's not followed. That's all. Little Irish, just a little. But my sister is aware of her restraining order because what she did is considered a zero tolerance crime. Like if somebody were to take you and throw you out in the middle of January,
totally false pretense.
yeah, they would be in jail with no trial. Okay.
Right.
I had 2.5 years to make that decision. And after that, it's up to the state. So I didn't put her in jail. So she waited to that very day. But when I came here, she made all these statements, got all this information from my daughter, and started calling the doctors. And it just happened again recently. So I had to hand that doctor the restraining order, strike everything she said. She suffers from psychopathy. Okay, I get it. It's a trauma, whatever. I'm talking too much. But yeah, no, I no longer exist to people like that. And I still love her. But
talk
love
about a
is
vendetta.
fun. Yeah. No, then I don't have a vendetta.
No, it sounds like she does if she's still contacting your medical professionals, literally inhibiting your care.
Oh, yeah. Well, she's not inhibiting my care.
Oh, okay.
She's shortening her road to, I don't know what color they'll put her in. She looks better in orange than I do. So, let her. She's doing it to herself. Let her.
There you go.
I just, but the statements that she's made, and it's like, no, that is so not true. Never threatened her life. Never ever. But she was in fear for her life because of something I had said. She only heard one side of a telephone conversation, and she had to admit that they had almost 40 security cameras in and outside of their property. So in doing that, she had to, unfortunately, later admit that she had invaded my privacy on an intimate level. Cheers.
Sorry to hear
Right
that.
on. Once
You
again.
know, and it's, I can either let it keep dragging me down, or I can stand up and throw it back at them, you know, but
There you go.
we're not gonna, yeah, it's like we're not gonna get anywhere unless we say, wait, what you did was wrong. And what are you willing to do to change it?
We're gonna change
Otherwise,
it with this. They're
we're
gonna see
changing
this
it
shit.
with this. Yeah, people are gonna start seeing it. And it's like, you can't, we can't deny that we are, because of just the diagnosis alone makes us vulnerable, you know, not just on our personal level, but to other people. You know, they bank on me not remembering anything. I bank on that. You know, it's like, oh yeah, okay, no, I remembered it, or I recorded it, or I wrote it down, or something, you know. So I love it that people think, oh, you just don't have it, you know, but it's, yeah, and the guinea pig syndrome in these teaching hospitals. It's like, no.
Yeah, the guinea pig syndrome. Feel like that quite often too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But change the tone real quick. The next question. Before the next question, I had something funny in my head, and you know, usually we can forget stuff. But for some reason, it just wouldn't go out of my head. It was like, it's so funny, you got to tell everybody. So, back to when the lady was talking about oral and seizures. I was just like, I don't know how old she is, but I was like, maybe take your teeth out. But I didn't ask her that, so we're not going to stick to that. That was just a funny thought that was in my head. Like, maybe if you didn't have teeth, but hey, I don't know how old she was. So, next question. Tonic.
Come on, man. Miss versus reward. Again, you're going to put that on the woman?
I almost fell down the stairs.
Sorry,
You
I'm
guys.
Just the man in me.
I
My
would
thoughts were
totally
everywhere, and I couldn't
understand
forget it.
like,
It was just like, you gotta say it. You gotta get it off your chest.
Talk
Keep
about
thinking
going
it.
above and beyond.
I can't
Oh, that's
forget the
true
things that
love?
I don't want to remember. I mean, that I shouldn't remember.